as a cancer survivor, celebrating one birthday.
Thank you. I want to welcome you all for the first American Cancer Society Relay for Life held here in beautiful Mill Valley, California. My name is Eleni Ross. I am 45 years old. I am a wife, a mother, a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, half Greek, a lover of rock and roll, a Marin County native, and a breast cancer survivor. My life is filled with encounters and faith. I have come to believe that certain things are meant to be and that we all have a destiny. We can choose our own destiny in some cases, and in others we cannot. I am filled with hope and faith that these two things have guided my destiny. Let me tell you my story. Cancer has cast a shadow on my life for a long time. When I was 6 years old, I lost my grandmother, Helen T. Vellis, to pancreatic cancer. At 16, my mother, Harriet Wise, was diagnosed with colon cancer. She had surgery and went through radiation treatment and was thought to be cancer-free. A year later, the cancer metastasized to her liver. She lived for 6 years, going to chemotherapy every week. This was my first experience with the hope and faith that is frequently mentioned by cancer survivors. She truly wanted to survive. I kept her busy with my Job's Daughters and my DeMolay Sweetheart obligations. When we were at Portland DeMolay Convention in May of 1988, we got a call that we won the grand prize in our church's raffle. It was 2 round-trip tickets to Greece. Hold on. Sorry. It was fate that we won those tickets. Otherwise, we would not have been able to go. My mom and I went to Greece in June of 1989 to the beginning of July. My mom made arrangements to have chemo while we were there in Greece. I got to see the villages where my grandmother and grandfather came from, as well as 10 days in Italy visiting Rome, Florence, Pisa, Venice, and Milan. It was the trip of a lifetime, and it was one of my mom's dreams to take me to our country of origin. The next year, on June 11th, 1990, at 2:10 p.m., I watched her take her last breath. She was so very strong until the end. People have often asked me where I have gotten my strength from, and it all comes from my mom. Later that year, December 20th, 1990, fate played another role in my life. This is the day I met my husband, Robert Ross. I almost didn't go out that night, but something made me. Our first date, we talked about our parents. I told him I lost my mom 6 months prior to cancer, and he looked at me and told me that he had just lost his mom, Jane Hoff, in May of that year to cancer as well. We discovered both our fathers were not well either, and subsequently passed away within that first year of knowing each other. We were destined to be together, to have each other for support and empathy. This bond we share is so strong, nothing can break it. Robert and I were married on October 2nd, 1993. Yes, we did have my big fat Greek wedding.
You're a lucky guy.
Let's cover that.
Okay. We had a lot of fun times in our early years. We both work in the automotive industry. My husband is an auto technician, and I work more on the auto insurance claim side. On July 26, 2000, our lives changed forever for the better when our son Theodore Jack Ross was born. We call him TJ. His name is very symbolic. He is named Theodore after my father, my grandfather, and my cousin, and Jack after Rob's father. My mother's baptismal name was Theodore, and Rob's mom's initials were TJ. So we named our son after all our parents in one fell swoop, so we didn't have to have any more kids.
One's enough.
I discovered when we were researching names that Theodore means gift from God, and he truly is our gift from God.
That's what my name
In 2007, I became involved with Tata Tuesday in association with 1077 The Bone, which is a radio station here in San Francisco. Every Tuesday morning, early from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., we would go out to various locations in the Bay Area and help raise money for the Breast Cancer Fund. My friends and I were called the Rack Pack. I was nicknamed the Rack Pack Princess. Being involved in this heightened my awareness about breast cancer. I was always very diligent about getting my yearly checkups. I had a baseline mammogram done prior to turning 40. Little did I know at that time, this awareness would save my life. I am an active member of the Order of the Eastern Star. Hold on. Woo! My chapter meets here in Mill Valley, and we have been active in the relay for many years. I walked in several relays and always had an uplifting experience, even before I was a survivor. We had lost 3 active members to cancer, all within a year of each other, in 2009 and 2010. So relay was a time for us to honor their memory by helping to raise money for a great cause. In early 2011, I went in for my regularly scheduled mammogram. I received a call a week later that they wanted me to come back to have another mammogram. I was thinking, what's up with that? Everyone I spoke to, even my OBGYN, said either, oh yeah, that happened to me, or no big deal, it happens all the time. So I was pretty calm about it. After my second mammogram, my radiologist told me that he wanted to do an ultrasound just to be sure that it was nothing, probably not to worry about it. Again, I was calm, but I had to wait until December 22nd to get my ultrasound. December 22nd is Rob and my anniversary of our first date, so I thought this would be a good omen. I went to check in for my appointment. They had canceled it by accident. I said, I'm not leaving here without this ultrasound being done. I waited a month for this appointment, which I had a printout. They fit me in. During this procedure, I could tell by the looks on the faces of the technicians that there was something there. Then the radiologist came over and looked at it. He would make a lousy poker player. He then said that he would like to do a biopsy on my left breast just to make sure. I said, okay, but in my head I was screaming, make sure of what? Could I actually have the C word at 43 years old? Nah. So Merry Christmas to me in 2011. I had to wait 5 days for my results. I was working at an auto body shop at the time, and my personal cell phone rang on Tuesday, 12/27/2011 at 11:45 a.m. All I heard was blah, 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 you have cancer, blah, blah, blah. My world absolutely spun. I had no history of breast cancer in my family. Rob came and picked me up from work, and my boss told me to keep her posted and she would start disability paperwork. My poor husband was already concerned about his best friend, Rudy Bush, who was battling cancer, and now I was diagnosed. Another horrible coincidence for Rob was that his mom was diagnosed with breast cancer at 43 years old. How strange to have the 2 closest women in your life be diagnosed at the same age. We had an appointment with the surgeon at 3 p.m. that day. My surgeon explained all the options that were possibilities for me. I had ductal cancer, DCIS, a very slow-growing type of cancer. I have no idea how long it was in my body. The 2 options of surgery were a lumpectomy with radiation or a single mastectomy with no chemotherapy or with the possible chemotherapy if it was in the lymph nodes. I had to get educated very fast. The first thing I needed to schedule was an MRI with dye contrast to see how far the cancer had spread. If it was just localized, I could opt for the lumpectomy. I had my MRI on January 15th, 2012. I had a hard time with the IV during the procedure, and it popped out of my arm, and dye went everywhere, so we had to do it again. And if anybody's ever had an MRI, they know what a pain that is. I finished the MRI, got dressed, and the technician gave me a hug. She couldn't tell me anything, but she knew what she saw. We met with my surgeon the next day. The MRI showed that there was more than just a small area that needed to be removed. A mastectomy was going to be necessary, course of action to eliminate the cancer. This would be for the left breast only. The right breast was beautiful and appeared healthy, which is what is so strange to me still to this day. I still felt like this was happening to someone else, but it was not. It was me. We then had a consult with the plastic surgery department. Hold on. For my reconstruction options. I was amazed at the options available. I opted for immediate reconstruction with a tissue expander planted during the first mastectomy surgery and a second surgery for a permanent implant at a later date. We scheduled my surgery for February 24th, 2012. I needed a month to come to grips with this. I have a strong background with the Masonic orders. I was a Job's daughters, and during this particular period in my life, I compared myself to Job. God is testing me for my faith. When all is not going well, remain steadfast to God, and he will deliver you. My faith was tested, but I had to remain positive things will turn around. What other option was there? Many of you may not understand this, but I know my Masonic family well, especially my Eastern Star sisters and brothers. During that time of personal reflection and preparation, I thought a lot about the story of Ada. She represents the first point of our star. Hers is the first story heard by the new initiates. Her story instantly came to my mind at the beginning of this ordeal. I felt the next month prior to my surgery was my time to go into the mountains and prepare myself. Ada came from the mountains ready to fulfill her father's promise to God for his good fortune. She was brave and centered. I needed this extra time to wrap my mind around what was happening to me. I planned on being that brave and centered for my future, as this was my test, as well as my reality. I made my fight very public. I posted on Facebook and wrote on caringbridge.org my thoughts and feelings, as well as what was going on with my treatments. My friends and family were so very supportive. Many of those friends are here right now today. I gather my strength from all of them. So life moved along. Monday, everyday things kept me busy in that month. TJ had school and baseball starting, so we took him to Big Five Sporting Goods for some baseball cleats. When we were leaving the store, I was holding the door open for the man behind me. He noticed my tattoo on my left wrist, which is a breast cancer ribbon, see, with a heart in the middle. My first tattoo that I went and got 5 days after I was diagnosed. He asked me which ribbon it was, and I told him, and he said, very nice. And I said, well, not nice, but I understand what you mean, and that I was diagnosed with breast cancer a month ago. And he said that his son had leukemia, and he then proceeded to give me his plastic bracelet that we all wear on occasion. I have one on right now. It was purple, and it simply said hope. He placed it on my left wrist. I looked him in the eye and grabbed his hand and said, thank you. In that moment, we understood each other completely. Sometimes we find strength from places we are not expecting it, even from a complete stranger. 2 days before my surgery, my sister Kim came to help in my recovery. She had literally just become an RN, and I was her first patient. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today. She lives down in Southern California, but she was my caregiver. She was a godsend for all of us during this time. The day before my surgery arrived, I had to go to get nuclear in nuclear medicine. They inject you with dye to test your lymph nodes they remove. I was really freaked out, but strangely calm. I realized at that time that no amount of deep thought or meditation prepares you for having a part of your body you've had for 43 years removed. The day of my surgery arrived on February 24th, 2012. I woke up at 5 a.m., brushed my teeth, couldn't drink or eat anything. I felt positively numb and scared out of my mind. This was major surgery. We hugged and kissed my sister Kim. I went into TJ's room. He was still asleep. I stroked my baby boy's cheek and kissed him and whispered that I loved him. He did not stir. Rob and I left for the hospital. This is a great time to go to the hospital, by the way. That's easy to find a parking spot, just to let you know. We went into admitting and had a lady help us. She seemed a little gruff at first, but then when she pulled up my information, her demeanor changed, and she reassured me I was in good hands and brought me some Kleenex because naturally I was crying. We had to go upstairs to the operating waiting room to get checked in. After about 10 minutes, I was called to go back. I gave my husband a hug and kissed him and told him I loved him very much, as he did with me. This moment scared me the most, as I thought I might never see him or TJ again. I was then given a paper gown and some socks to put on. My clothing was put inside a locker. I held my left breast one more time, as I knew it was never going to feel or look that way again. I then laid in a bed, and they asked me a bunch of questions. A nurse on our right put the IV in with extreme precision and quickness, thank God. She didn't mess around. My plastic surgeon, Dr. Johnson, came in, and she drew on my left breast a yes and circled the areola, just to make sure she got the right one. After that, they finally kicked down with some good drugs to calm me down a bit, like drinking 3 martinis without a hangover. They rolled me into the operating room, and there were approximately 4 nurses in there. We were chit-chatting away. Then the next thing I remember is coming to in the recovery room. During this time of my surgery, a bunch of my close girlfriends were cleaning my house top to bottom as a surprise for me, because I would be pretty useless for at least a couple of weeks. I was able to go home from the hospital that very evening. I was very drugged up, but I was happy, so very happy to be able to go home and recuperate. I vaguely remember getting into the car at the hospital and Kim helping me up the stairs to my bedroom. My nurse kept visitors to a minimum. Sister Nurse Kim helped me through those first few days along with my husband. There was lots of pain and difficulty in moving, and I still had to wait for those results of the tests on my lymph nodes. This was the longest week of my life. I got the call from my surgeon on March 3rd. I was in Melissa's living room at the time we were visiting, saying I was all clear, no cancer, no chemotherapy. I had never been so happy or relieved. I may have lost a breast, but I wouldn't have to lose my hair, as you can see, or deal with the additional sickness brought on from chemotherapy. I am truly one of the lucky ones. In April of 2012, my husband, son, and I were up in Novato at Trader Joe's. I was checking out. I had on my usual jewelry on, including my Purple Hope bracelet, which I wore all the time, that the stranger had given to me outside of the sports store back in January when I was so unsure of my prognosis. I was looking in my wallet. I heard a man say from the next check stand over, "You still have the bracelet, I see." I look up, and there was the man who gave me the bracelet. I told him I was cancer-free, and I came up and gave him a hug and told him I wore the bracelet every day. He was very happy for me and said it was the best kind of news. He was also wearing a San Diego Padres hat, and that was my son's Little League team that year. I find it very strange sometimes how life comes around full circle. It was fate that I saw him again. The Purple Hope bracelet was since given by me to an acquaintance that told me of her dear friend who had leukemia, and it didn't look good for her. I knew in my heart that this small symbol that I cherished through my ordeal needed to be passed on to someone who needed a little more hope. I had to pay the hope forward. That lady is still fighting, and I hope she wins the battle. I have since had reconstruction surgery, and I'm happy with the results. On a personal note, my husband and I lost our very dear friend Rudy Bush this year to cancer. I had survivor's guilt that I did not know how to deal with. Rudy was there for me with an understanding hug when I needed it. He was the best man at our wedding. He's always been a part of Rob's life. He was so strong, and the world is a smaller place without him here. My husband Robert walks today in honor of his memory. I have participated in the Dirty Girl Mud Run and a fashion show for To Celebrate Life Foundation. Both of these organizations are focused on breast cancer. I have met so many survivors that have become friends. Every time I encounter a cancer survivor, I hug them because we truly get what we have gone through, no matter to what degree it is. I participate in the Relay for Life because it helps people with all types of cancers. By walking, I honor those who we have lost and those who are currently fighting the battle. Through my whole experience with my diagnosis and treatment, I never gave up hope, and I always kept the faith that everything would be okay. Relay is a celebration for me. I celebrate being alive along with my other fierce survivors. I celebrate the memory of the ones we have lost. I celebrate the fight of those battling the disease currently. I celebrate my family and friends who gave me the strength to fight. I feel my own destiny is to inspire others to have hope and faith, to keep fighting, and to never give up. That is what I am going to keep doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eleni. Before you leave the stage, would you please introduce your friends who are going to be providing music for us in just a minute or two?
Okay. Another important part of my life is music. And these two people that are here today are part of the band called Love Planet. Their music is what inspires me. They helped me get through this. Their songs lifted me up and brought me hope, and I love them both. There's Nicole Sutton and Mark McGee, and they're going to play some tunes for you today while we're walking. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for doing this for me.
We also have Jerry here, who is a 4-year cancer survivor, and Jerry has